Hello,
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Uh-huh. Um, in terms of a interview, I'd like to begin at the beginning. I was born in 1954 to Kisikumikakatus and Achquinimaaki. My name, first of all, they were Morning Star and Pipe Woman. That was their names. We're going to use the Indian names. And then my grandfather on my father's side, his name was Gapsia, and his wife was Naminima. And on my mother's side, it was Ikutsatus. And I don't know my grandmother's name, I just know her by Maggie. And then before that, there was Philip Small Legs and Achtzimma. And then on my mother's side, it was Crow Flag. So, you know, my heritage goes way back. What's her name? What was her name? Achtzimma. She goes back to the 1850s, somewhere in there. She was born, and she saw many things. She saw the end of the Buffalo Days, and she was the she saw the treaty being signed with the white man, and she saw the reservation life. She saw all the hardship that accumulated over this past 100 years. She died at the age of 106 years old. She was full of knowledge. I was 2 years old when she passed away. And my name is Misama Kukumaka, which was given to me by Gapsia, my grandfather. He talks about his traveling life, and he talks about the life that he led. He was traveling to the United States to pick berries, and there's at that time there were still road trains, passenger trains, really. They were part of the transportation system. We just had horses and set a team, and we didn't have any vehicles at the time. So he traveled over to he was born in about 1900, and his traveling life was started in about 17 years old.
Where was he born?
He was born in the Pagan Indian Reserve. He was born in a log home, and no, he was born in a tent. I think he was born in a tent. That them days we converted from teepee life to tent life, and then later on in my time, in my father's time, we transferred that from tent life to log home. We built a log home structure, and then I was born in the little hospital that they had in Brockett, Alberta. So I was saying how my name came about. My name was from my grandfather traveling over to the United States. It was such a grade that the grade that came up to the, we should say the grade that came over, you know, through the mountains and everything, came about halfway, then went over the hill, started to go downhill. Well, it was a long session, a long time traveling over the hill. So that became my name. It was a very colorful name, and so I've kept it all these years. My name, I shortened it a bit. It's a long time traveling over the hill. I put long time traveling on a business card.
So how do people react when they see your business card?
They wonder what it is. What you know, my name's long time traveling, and then I have to explain the going over the hill. But my name is N.America, and I introduce myself as that. We've got treaty names. My grandfather's got a treaty name, my great-grandfather's got a treaty name, and a treaty name is what they've called us. In 1877, there was, sitting at a table like you and me, they were interviewed after the signing of the treaty. There had to be a list. Let's say 4 brothers. They were called each a different name. There's Little Leaf, Good Striker, Small Legs, Left Hand, and so on. You know, they were brothers. They were all brothers, but they each got a. They each took their name as the surname, and as a result, we were called these. We were given these names, never knowing in the future, you know, these people, they would say that we were related, and that's very important to say, because later in the like in the early 1900s, there was another epidemic that came across us, and our population was knocked to 134 people. So, you know, we had to know who our relatives were. But given the Indian name or the treaty name, we were the interpreter gave us a treaty name, gave us the what he felt was the interpretation, and we start Little Leaf. He was given that name, Little Leaf. Good Striker, and then Small Legs. Well, in the interpretation, it wasn't Little Leaf, it wasn't Good Striker, it wasn't Small Legs. Those were his idea of the interpretation, and like my name, my surname comes from Inakimi. It's what we were supposed to. It meant young person. That's what we were supposed to be called. And so my grandfather, he didn't know one way or the other, because at that time nobody knew how to write. Nobody knew the interpretation and we were given. He was given the name Small Legs, and we thought it was right, and they thought it was right, but it wasn't really right. It was the interpreter's mistake. So, from then on, his name was Small Legs. And then life continued, and they had to pick a Christian name for their names. Of course, Christianity was very, very hard, and it was part of our life. And we were my grandfather was given the name James. That's his Christian name. So it was James Small Legs. I don't know what his middle name is. It could be something, but I don't know. So we were given that name, and that was my great grandfather's treaty name. And I'm sorry, I'm mistaken. It was Philip Small Legs who was given that, and he was he took the name Philip, and that's the way he was registered, Philip Small Legs. And then when my grandfather was born, he was born into the white culture as James Small Legs. And then my father was come in. His name was Nelson Small Legs, Nelson Luke Small Legs. And then when I came, it was Devalon James Small Legs. That is my treaty name. So I understand that. Where the name Devalon comes from, it's very unusual. First off, my dad used to be in jail a lot, and he came out of jail, and when I was born, he said, there was a guy in jail, he was a good friend of mine, he was going to be sentenced to be hung. You know, it's really crazy. He was going to be hung. But his name was Devalon. That's Devlin. And my mother said, okay, but we'll change the spelling on it. And it became Devalon. Devalon. Or like I found out, the name is Devalon, which yes, Deva, and which means lone god. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I take my name seriously. It's really something to be for my mother to get that kind of enlightenment and to name me Devalon. Anyways, my second name, we were named after our grandfather, which is a Christian name, James, and then the treaty name would be Small Legs. It was it's very complicated, but I've got what we call an Indian card. We live on the reservation, and if we have, this is my Indian card. There's my
Small Legs,
yes.
Devalon James.
Yes. That is my treaty number. So it's just like the Jews with their tattooed mark. Mm-hmm. We're given this card, and we are secondary citizens of Canada, Citizens Plus. Yes.
Means it's a good thing or a bad?
If the government would how do you say, acknowledge it, we would have special status. In the context of the Indian Act, we're not. So it's a good thing and it's a bad thing.
And do they give you any sort of financial support?
Financial support is every year they give us $5.
Only?
That's treaty money.
That's nothing.
That's
really.
nothing.
So you are not allowed to live outside the reservation?
in 1966 we weren't allowed to, and then up to that point, we needed a permit to leave the reservation. But there were some other people that were already leaving the reservation. But up to 1966, we weren't able to, and we weren't able to stay in the towns more than 2 hours. These kind of things there were. But in 1969, we won the right to have our Sundance back again, which meant we were able to practice our own way. Up to that point, we were either Christian, Catholic, Protestant, Anglican, or there's a number of other denominations on the reserve.
All these forced on you.
Yes, yes, all this forced on us. The Indian agent said one day, "You're going to be Catholic, and the next bunch, you're going to be Anglican, and you're going to be Protestant." That's the 3 different schools that were on the reservation. The Sacred Heart boarding school, which was a boarding school by itself, that was Catholic, and then the what's that? St. Vincent, but that was Protestant, and then that was Anglican, and then the day school was Protestant.
And did it stop you completely from practicing your own Indian religion?
It almost did. We weren't allowed to. First, our hair was cut. Our hair was cut. Secondly, we had to wear their clothes. And thirdly, we could not speak our language. So that was forced upon us. That was a part of their policy to Indianize, or to deculturalize the Indian people. And it was that part that we really suffered. Okay, how we practiced our own way. Many people went underground. We would say underground. We would say they practiced deep in the night. First of all, I'll give you the penalty for practicing. Even if we came together as 7 people talking on the street, we could get arrested. And if we practiced our own way, we could get arrested.
So even within the reservation there was police and full control?
Yes. Right around the reservation, within seeing distance of the one another, there was northwest mounted police stations. So they could see, if we were moving around, what we were doing. That takes a lot of manpower to do that. So a lot of people were RCMP, and my grandfather, he was a what they call a scout, Indian scout, in 1934 to 37, and it was really difficult because his boys would get beaten up or get picked on because he was a scout. He believed he was doing good, but really, in actual fact, he was just a stoolie for the RC, or the Northwest Mounted Police. Anyways, that being said, we have to. I'll describe some other things that happened to us. In 1919. There was a Spanish flu that hit all over the world, and it was very deadly. And in Canada, some of it hit the Indian reservations, and some reservations were just completely wiped out. And ours, we were lucky. Our number went down to 134 people. That was what was left. And then the bigger reserve that was next to us, their population went down to, I think, 1,000 or 800 or something like that. Anyways, we, like I was saying before, we had to know who our relatives were, who became our relatives, who we were. Of those 134 people, there was 5 sisters. And those 5 sisters were all had different names, but their children's children, they became, we would say they started to intermarry, and it was hard to know.
Incest.
Yeah, incest. It was something that came. It was very difficult to know who your relatives are to. In fact, everybody in that reserve was relatives, eh? And they were the people. They wanted to say, they wanted to, under the Indian Act, Indian agent said, okay, you guys go join the blood reserve and leave your land away. It was only through fighting for our land we were able to get, like Bolpum. He was a real strong leader. He said, no, we want to stay here. In the future, when our people are many, that's what he said. And getting back to the time that I was raised, I remember very early in my youth, the different places that we lived, the culture, and every once in a while we had a dance. We had an Indian dance, but we weren't allowed to practice. We were allowed to dance. So in that way we were celebrating, and it was a good celebration. I remember the night time they would dance all night. It was a very, very good time, and you could feel the warmth of the people. They were still very, very close together. And there was no alcohol. Under the Indian Act, if somebody was caught drinking alcohol, they would be sent away for 21 days.